Dean. Before we get starting, if I can have your attention, I'd like to remind all the registered voters you need your voting card. Because we're not going to be yelling and screaming tonight like the last session we did a year ago or so. We're going to ask for your card. So if you want to be counted, make sure you have your voter card and you've checked in with your checklist supervisors. We will be starting in about 30 seconds.
Give her my SAU 106 shirt. She worked so hard on the withdrawal and didn't get one. We should send her one. We should send everybody on the withdrawal committee. Everybody, well, no.
Ready? Ready? Okay, good evening. My name is Bob Harb, and I'm your school moderator. I'd like to ask all of you, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our national anthem. Please join with me in a pledge to Old Glory. The flag is to my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, to lead us in the singing of our national anthem, the Timberlane High School Chamber Singers, under the direction of Mr. Robert Finch. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Chamber Singers. Excellent. Excellent. Great job. Next in the agenda, I'm going to read the moderator's rules, which is subject to your approval. Then I'm going to entertain a motion for non-residents to speak. And then I'm going to ask all those on the main stage to introduce themselves for you, those present. The meeting rules. If you do not wish to wear a mask, then there's designated places for you to sit. No smoking. Please turn off your cell phone or put them on silent. Please, each person treat every other participant with courtesy and respect. Any voter who wishes to address the meeting will approach the microphone. There's a number of microphones throughout the auditorium. You will be recognized by the moderator, myself. You must state your name and address and spell your last name. The clerk needs to write your name down and notify your address in the record. General comments are limited to 5 minutes maximum. Speakers remain at the microphone if you ask the question to get an answer to it. All questions to the school board, budget committee, or anyone else present, officials or meeting participants, should be directed through the chair, myself, the moderator. Each voter who decides to speak on an article will be given a chance to do so before any voter is given an opportunity to speak a second time. So I'll get a chance first, then we'll go back if you want to speak again. Again, important, makers of motions and seconds, you must state your name loudly, and if you haven't come forward, spell your last name, because the law now requires that our district clerk put your name in the record, so she wants to make sure she spells it correctly. Any amendment of financial amounts must be stated in dollars. Percentages must be converted to dollar amounts. Upon appeal of any ruling by the moderator, a majority vote will prevail. All votes will initially be a hand count by raising your cards. Some people are wearing masks, so we don't want to take a voice count. We did this last time, and it worked out fine. I have 3 assistant moderators in the field. If we need to count, they will count. But first, I will ask for a show of cards. If it's not close, we won't count. If it's close, the 3 will count. When my assistants ask you to hold your card up, don't put it down until they tell you to put it down. We want to make sure every vote gets counted. We use Robert's rules only as a guide. At any time, these rules may be altered by a majority vote of those present. Are there any objections to these rules, or does anyone have a motion to change any of them? Hearing none, then these rules will provide for us in an orderly fashion for tonight's meeting. So now we move, someone wants to make a motion for a non-resident to speak. Could that be Dr. Farah?
I would like to make a motion to authorize Attorney O'Shaughnessy to speak.
And we have a motion made and seconded by Kristen Savage. All in favor, raise your cards. Is there anyone opposed? Any abstained? So I see a couple of opposition, but the ayes have it. Now I'd like to start with Dr. Farah and ask those who will move through the front and the people on stage so that you'll all know who's up here. Dr. Farah, would you start, please?
I'm Kim Farah, School Board Chair, Town of Danville.
Kristen Savage, School Board Vice Chair, Town of Plastow.
Katie Knudsen, Plastow School Board.
Sheila Lowe's, Sandown, New Hampshire.
Brian Boyle, School Board, Atkinson.
Sean O'Neill, Danville.
Barbara Kishka, Plastow.
Amy Gentile, Atkinson.
Steve Finnegan, Sandown. Honestly, attorney for the district.
Chris Kellen, Superintendent of Schools.
Great, thank you very much. Now reading the warrant, 2022 Timberlane Regional School District warrant, State of New Hampshire. To the inhabitants of the school district of the towns of Atkinson, Danville, Plastow, and Sandown, New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. First session of annual meeting deliberative. You are hereby notified to meet at the Timberlane Performing Arts Center, 40 Greeno Road, Plastow, New Hampshire, on Thursday, the 10th day of February, 2022 at 7 p.m. The session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles 2 through 13. Warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. A, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. B, warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And C, no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. Second session of the annual meeting of voting. Voting on warrant articles 1 through 13 will be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with town meeting voting to be held on Tuesday, the 8th day of March, 2022, at the town election polls in Atkinson, Danville, Plastow, and Sandown, New Hampshire. Atkinson will be conducted at the Atkinson Community Center, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Danville will be conducted at the Danville Community Center from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Plastow. Voting will take place at the Plastow Public Works Garage, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sandown voting will be conducted at the Sandown Town Hall from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Article 1 just sets forth all the different officers and positions you will be voting upon in the official ballot on March 8th at your particular towns. Moving on to Article 2, the operating budget. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $75,753,607. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $76,300,383, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Timberlane Regional School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, Roman numeral X and XVI, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Note, warrant Article 2, the operating budget does not include appropriations proposed under any other warrant articles. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0, recommended by the budget committee 7-1-1. Do I hear a motion to place Article 2 on the warrant, on the ballot as written?
I'll make a motion to put Article 2 on the ballot as written.
Second that?
We have a motion and a second. Someone wish to discuss this? Kristen? No. Someone from the Budget Committee want to just say a few words about this article? Sounds not.
I will, sure. Todd McCormick, Chair of the Budget Committee. So, yep, these are the numbers that we presented at the public hearing. The proposed operating budget is 0.47% over what last year's voted operating budget is. We worked over the course of about 10 meetings throughout the budget season, worked hand in hand with the business administrator, Maria Watkins, and came out with pretty much a level-funded budget, much like we have done over the past 4 seasons that I've been on the Budget Committee. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say on this article? I don't see anyone approaching the microphone, so Article 2 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 3,
I would like to make a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 2.
We have a motion to restrict reconsideration. We have a second. Any discussion? In favor of restricting Article 2, please raise your cards. Thank you. You can put them down. Any opposed? We have a number opposed, but I rule that the ayes have it. So restricted on Article 2. Moving on to Article 3, one-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Administrative Assistant Secretaries and Skilled Maintenance Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Administrative Assistants and Maintenance Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Fiscal year 2022 to 23 estimated increase, $135,552. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $135,552 for the 2022-23 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributed to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing level. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 5-0, recommended by the budget committee 6-0. Do I have a motion to place Article 3 on the ballot as written? The motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Someone wish to discuss and speak on this article?
This article represents a one-year collective bargaining agreement between the administrative assistant secretaries and the skilled maintenance union. In contrast to the next two articles you'll see that represent collective bargaining agreements that are 3-year. This is a one-year agreement. We're working on trying to adjust the wage scale for this particular group, and we hope to do that and in the next fiscal year come out with another 3-year contract for this group. But we felt that we should move forward with this agreement to ensure that this group had benefits and raises that would be in line with what we were looking for.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Anyone else wish to speak on Article 3? Seeing none, seeing no motions to amend, Article 3 will appear on the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 4, which I believe is language set by law to authorize a new meeting in case Article 3 fails at the polls. Article 4, authorization for a special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 4-1. Motion to place this on the ballot as written.
I'll make the motion to place it on the ballot as written.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made and seconded. I don't believe we need any discussion on it. No one approaching the mics. So Article 4 will appear on the ballot as written. Moving on, Article 5, 3-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Custodians Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Custodians Union and the Timberlane School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Fiscal year 2022 to 23, estimated increase $137,283. Fiscal year 23-24, estimated increase $99,146. Fiscal year 24-25, estimated increase $119,050. The total of the 3-year increase, $355,479. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $137,283 for the 22-23 fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0, recommended by the budget committee 6-0. A motion to place this on the ballot as written.
Make a motion to place this on the ballot as written.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made and seconded. Does someone wish to speak to Article 5?
I'll just briefly speak to this. This is for the collective bargaining agreement for the custodians union. This represents a 3-year agreement. We did, if you'll notice, the wage increase in year 1 is higher than the subsequent 2 years. As people know, starting salaries are getting higher. We're trying to make sure that we are comparable to other districts and other job offerings, so that it does represent a little bit higher increase in this year to bring us back up to where we need to be.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Anyone else wish to speak on Article 5? Seeing no one approaching the mics, Article 5 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 6, authorization for special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the town of Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 5 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 5 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 6-1. Motion to place this on the ballot as written.
Make that motion to place it on the ballot as written.
Thank you.
Second that.
We have a motion made and seconded. This is language required by law, I believe. No one's approaching the mics that I can see, so Article 6 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 7, 3-year collective bargaining agreement, Timberlane Food Service Workers Union. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Timberlane Food Service Workers Union and the Timberlane Regional School Board, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels over the amount paid in the prior fiscal year. Fiscal year 22-23 estimated increase $40,887. Fiscal year 23-24 estimated increase $26,464. Fiscal year 24-25 estimated increase $33,450 for a 3-year total of $100,801. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,887 for the 22-23 fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7-0, recommended by the budget committee 6-0. Do I have a motion to place this on the ballot as written?
Make the motion to place it on the ballot as written.
I'll second it.
We have a motion made and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 7?
I'll speak to Article 7. This is for the bargaining agreement on the Food Service Workers Union. Just so the public is aware, this does not represent all the food service workers that we have in the district. The majority of our food service workers are contracted out to Whitson's as our current contract. This article is related to any of the food service workers that are still working under the Timberlane employees. As those workers retire, the board over many years prior to me getting on has decided that all food service will move to a contractual basis. So these are workers that were here before the district moved away from providing its own food service that the district is still supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Anyone else wish to speak on Article 7?
Barbara Kitska would like, go ahead, Barbara.
You had a question, and that is how many people are covered by this agreement?
You may answer.
I know it's under 10. I don't have the exact number. Dana? All right. It's under 10 employees right now.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on Article 7? Seeing none, Article 7 will appear on the ballot as written. Article 8, authorization for a special meeting on cost items. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District, if Article 7 is defeated, authorize the Timberlane Regional School Board to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 7 cost items only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 6-1. Do we have a motion to place Article 8 on the ballot as written?
Make the motion to put Article 8 on the ballot as written.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion made and seconded. This is language prescribed by law. Anyone have any questions? No one's approaching the mic. Article 8 will appear on the ballot as written. Moving on to Article 9. Article 9, Capital Reserve Fund by Surplus. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District raise and appropriate up to $250,000 to be placed in the school building construction, reconstruction, capital improvement, and land purchase Capital Reserve Fund established in 1996, with such amount to be transferred from those funds in the June 30th, 2022 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year, which were apportioned as capital expenses in 21-22 in accordance with Article 6 of the Timberlane Regional School District Articles of Agreement. No amount to be raised by additional taxation. Majority vote required. Recommended by the school board 7-0. Recommended by the budget committee 6-0. Do we have a motion to place Article 9 on the ballot as written?
Make the motion to place Article 9 on the ballot.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak on Article 9?
I'll speak to Article 9. This $250,000 is only put into the Capital Reserve Fund if there are unexpended capital funds at the end of the fiscal year. Typically, in the last few years, the board has been ensuring that we are spending money on capital improvements in the district, so I think last year there was maybe about $30,000, $20,000 to $30,000 less. So the majority of this is not raised through taxation, but any money left at the end of the budget year in the capital lines is moved into this budget up to a maximum of $250,000.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Anyone else wish to? Yes, Barbara Kishka.
As a member of the Capital Improvement Committee, I just want you to know where this money is scheduled to go. We are planning to spend most of this on HVAC systems, so we can get
Sorry,
more.
point of order, point of order.
Oh, I
That's-
said no, sorry.
No, this is not what this
That's
money
right,
would
sorry.
be, no.
You all set, Barbara?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on Article 9? Seeing none, Article 9 will appear on the ballot as written. I heard a whole bunch of voices, but I think I heard at least one say a motion to reconstruct. If that person would wish to give their name and address for the clerk.
LVA, 16 Summit Drive, Atkinson, New Hampshire.
Thank you. We have a second? Name and address, please. Do you wish to speak on the motion to reconsider, sir? I didn't see your hand, and we've moved on to a motion to reconsider. If the ladies that made the motion to restrict reconsidering withdraw their motion temporarily, then I'll let you speak. Otherwise, we've moved on to another item. I'm sorry.
I would like to speak to the motion to reconsider.
So I don't hear the ladies withdrawing. If someone wishes to move down there in that empty space, I don't have a problem if you want to move down to there.
There's somebody that wants to speak on the motion.
I understand.
They didn't have to sit back there, can they? Nobody, you could have sat right there.
You don't have to sit back there, that whole side was mass copy.
Yeah.
We can sit down here because it says seating for budget committee.
Right, no, but over there.
Well, that's not very clear. You can see how we interpreted that.
I would like to speak to the motion to restrict.
I heard you, Mr. True. If we could just give these people an opportunity, if they wish to move down to my left in those seats, let them move down.
No. Unless the attorneys.
If I have no objection from the two ladies, I see Kathy Slade's raised her hand. Okay, so the second's withdrawn to allow this gentleman an opportunity to speak to the motion. So, Mr. True, we're not on reconsideration, that's been withdrawn, and we're going to let this gentleman speak on the main motion. Main motion. Yes, sir. Name and address.
Nolan Pelletier, 24 North Ave, Pasto. It was just a point of inquiry. There was a special meeting where there was just roughly, rough numbers, $940,000. Didn't it go into this fund, or am I mistaken? Is it a different fund?
No, it did not go into this fund. That went into the, correct me if I'm wrong, Maria, the current operating budget? It went into the current operating budget.
Okay, I thought it was I was mistaken. I thought it was earmarked for something. I thought it was earmarked for school building construction and reconstruction. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pelletier. Does anyone else want to speak on Article 9? So I have a motion by Kathy Slade to, by the original maker. The original maker is remaking her motion, and I believe Kathy Slade will second it. So we have a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 9. If you're in favor of restricting reconsideration, please raise your card.
She said 3 through 9. 3 through 9.
Oh, 3 through 9. Well, some of them we've already restricted.
No, we only restricted
No?
2.
Are we okay with 3?
3 through 9.
Okay. So the motion is for 3 to 9. Basically, everything we've done after 2. Okay, all those in objecting to the reconsideration? I'm going to rule the ayes have it, so restriction is approved. Moving on to Article 10. General acceptance of reports. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and committees? Yes, sir. You'd like a hand count? Okay. Anyone else request a hand count? Can I show some cards? Okay, so I'll be happy to call for a hand count. So all of my assistant moderators, if you could stand up, and the people in the booths, if you're going to count, Mr. James knows to count you in the booth. So if you're in favor of restricting there's a man approaching the mic. Did you want to say something, sir?
In itself, because nobody talked about 3 to 9. You didn't even know it was 3 to 9 until you went right into the vote. So if we had known it was 3 to 9, maybe someone could have spoken before the vote.
Well, we're voting now, and we're counting. So you get an opportunity on 3 to 9 to reconstrict, to raise your card.
I would like to raise, to only vote on one article at a time, so that we're not voting on 6 at once. But what I'm saying is, when you first announced the motion so that people would come up to speak, you didn't say it was 3 to 9 until you were going to the vote.
Well, as I said, sir, I'm saying now it's 3 to 9, and the ladies made the motion 3 to 9. That motion is not out of order. It's not uncommon that people will lump them together. If you wish to speak on a particular article that you do not want to be reconsidered, we'll recognize you with the mic to speak on that article. So I don't see him reapproaching the mic. So I'm going to ask again. The vote is on whether we restrict Articles 3 through 9. If you're in favor of restricting 3 through 9, now please raise your cards. My counters will count. Keep them up until they tell you to put them down. Thank you. If you get tired, you can switch your hands, but keep the cards up, please.
Using your approach with the elbow on the table.
Yeah, well.
You have your total count, all right, hold on to it. All right, cards can go down. If you're opposed to the reconstriction, 3 to 9, please raise your cards.
My word for tonight. It's my word for tonight. It's the only purpose. Can. Yeah, well. Yeah. I'm done with that one too.
Cards have been tabulated by my assistant moderators. In favor of the motion, 100. Opposed, 54. Motion passes. The next 3 articles are citizens' petition questions.
No, we didn't do
Point of
10.
order, we
Oh,
did
10. I didn't finish 10. Thank you. Article 10, general acceptance of reports. Shall the voters of the Timberlane Regional School District accept reports of agents, auditors, and committees as written in the 2021 annual report? Majority vote required, recommended by the school board 7 to 0. Motion to place on the ballot?
I'll make a motion to place Article 10 on the ballot as written.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak to this article? Standard article. I don't see anyone approaching the mic, so Article 10 will appear on the ballot as written. Moving on, Article 11, citizens' petition question. Do you support the Timberlane Regional School District's requirement for a face mask mandate? I have a motion to place it on the ballot. I see a gentleman standing. Do you want to come down to the mic? My cards, as yours, does not say who submitted the petition, so I don't know who to call. But if you'd like to make this motion, sir, you can. Name and address.
David Kiley, 17 Nightland Road, Atkinson, New Hampshire. I'd like to propose an amendment.
I need a second on the main motion before you can oppose an amendment. So who would like the second to place this on the ballot? Can I have a name and address for the clerk? Anyone, name and address for the...
Mr. Moderator, since I'm the original petition, since I'm the petition warrant article submitter, I would like to actually request that I speak first on the warrant, which is normally done.
I think I will allow the gentleman, since he made the motion, I wasn't sure who made the petition. We'll let him speak, and then we'll recognize you, sir, for a motion. So the maker of the petition, you said you wanted to speak?
Correct.
Name and address again?
Sean O'Neill, Danville.
I think they need your address also.
16 J Drive, Danville, New Hampshire, 03819. As I had previously stated at a prior board meeting, it was my hope and desire that the school board would have taken the advice of Representative Brian Boyle by utilizing the tools that we have at the district level to send home a survey to parents requesting their input on the topic of mask mandating, an issue that has affected their children on a daily basis over the last 2 years. The board never moved forward with Mr. Boyle's suggestion, and I strongly suspect it was the answer that they were more concerned about. This citizen's petition warrant article before you changes that situation and now asks the entire district their view on the topic. I'm not here to sell you one way or another, as most likely you have made up your mind and views on this topic through various media sources and personal experiences. As a sidebar, ask yourself, why didn't the school board ask us this question directly? I know why, and I'm sure you do as well.
If you think the school board was right in requiring a mask mandate, then you would support that by a decision of voting in the affirmative. If you think the school board was wrong in requiring face masks as a mandate, then you would vote no. So let this warrant article live and die on its merits and go before the public, and let them declare their voice and their viewpoint on this important issue that has been faced by our district over the last 2 years. This mandate has affected all our students, teachers, and district members. Thank you and God bless, and I yield the mic to the moderator.
Thank you, sir. I'll recognize the voter that wishes to make a motion, and have you written that motion down and signed your name to it?
I've written it down, I can sign my name. I haven't signed my name.
Okay,
I've written it down, I haven't signed my name yet, but I can.
Okay. So why don't you tell us what your motion is, and then you can submit it with your name on it.
Mr. Moderator, my motion is, do you support that Timberlane Regional School District shall acknowledge that all powers of the local government stem from the legislature, and that only the legislature may explicitly grant authority to implement a face mask mandate to the district?
Can you submit that to the clerk with your name on it, please? Do we have a second to that gentleman's motion? I see many seconds, but I'll recognize Mr. Pelletier because I know his name. Do we have any discussion on the motion? And I will read it again before we vote on it because I couldn't write it all down. So anyone wish to discuss the motion? Yes, sir.
It's a motion. I'm going to speak against the motion. I'm going to stick with Mr. O'Neill's suggestion. Since I've served in this board, there's been a lot of questions here from the general audience and fellow board members. The big unknown, what the families and what the employees and the most directly affected people, what is their viewpoint? Let's find out what their viewpoint is once and for all. I don't want, me personally, I don't want to confuse this motion. We have received advice of counsel that no matter what happens on this warrant, you cannot overrule a school board vote on this subject matter. So I'm trying to keep it crystal clear so the people who sit up here, as well as the people who run our school district, hear loud and clear the voices of the people who work here and the directly affected families.
I see somebody else approaching the mic, so I'm going to let him speak first because he hasn't spoken before.
I'd like to speak on behalf of amending the motion that there's enough legal people in the legislature that are determining these things that we voted for specifically for making laws and mandates. We don't need a school board to overrule them. We have state law, we have federal law, we don't need school board law.
And could you again just tell us your name and address for the clerk? She just needs to write it down. I know you spoke before.
Steve Maglio, 2 Schoolhouse Lane, Sandown.
Thank you. I have a new speaker. I'm going to recognize the new speaker before I go back to the maker of the motion. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Sheila Lowe, Sandown.
I think they need the address of the speaker
I'm sorry,
also.
47B Hawkwood Road, Sandown, New Hampshire. Attorney O'Shaughnessy, am I correct in saying this, that the legislative, the governing body of the school districts provide policy? Am I correct on that? That the state of New Hampshire pushes it down to the local districts and their school boards to make these decisions. Is that an RSA?
Yes.
Off the top of your head, can you tell me what RSA that is?
RSA 189:1-A is the general authority of school boards to issue policies. There's a variety of other statutes that several courts in New Hampshire have affirmed the school board's authority to issue mandates to keep students and employees safe during the school day.
Correct. So it is not up to the legislative body in Concord, Mr. Maglio, it is up to the board members, and that is how the legislation in Concord made it, so that it was local control. I just wanted you to understand where this is coming from. Unless it's changed in Concord, this is how it is in New Hampshire. It comes down the road to the school boards to make policy.
I will give the maker a chance to
Thank you.
speak, but I do have another new speaker, and we'd like the new speakers to speak first, and then we'll go back to the two of you, because you've already spoken. Yes, ma'am.
Understood.
Carrie Patlis, 260 Main Street, Plastow. I have a clarifying question to a citizen's petition question on the ballot. I just want to clarify the answer that a citizen's petition is not a binding legal question that the school board would have to take action on regardless of the language it's written in or the amendment. Is that correct? It's essentially an opinion poll that the school board is not legally obligated to take action on regardless of the outcome of a yes or a no vote, regardless of the language it's originally written or on this amendment, correct?
That's a good point of order. I have my answer to that, but I'd like Mr. O'Shaughnessy, maybe if he wishes to answer that, the binding effect of these petitions.
Bob, I thought you were going to go first. That was what we agreed. So, I mean, generally, it really depends on the nature of the citizen's petition, because some citizen's petition warrant articles can be binding. The difference here is where the citizen's petition is trying to issue a directive to the school board on an issue that really is within the purview of the board. So the legislative body here is trying to direct the school board to do something that legally is within the school board's power. So you can't do that because state law has delegated that to the board. So it's really an advisory. It's a way of the community saying to the board, this is what we want, and that's how we've always treated these situations, but it really depends on the nature of the petition warrant article.
Okay, so to clarify, in this particular petition, it is non-binding, regardless of how the language it is currently or an amended. Nothing, the school board does not have to take action based on the vote on this particular citizen's petition.
Correct.
Thank you.
Both versions are advisory and not binding.
I'm going back to the maker of the motion to amend. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess my first comment is, with all due respect to those that believe they have the power and authority of the legislature, we have a constitution that provides for us having our legislators in the general court that actually make the laws, the RSAs. Our Constitution is the law of the land. The other thing that I will point out is that safety, especially with respect to health, has already been delegated to the health department, not to the school boards. We have specific statutes already on record under 141C, which deal with communicable diseases. They're meant to do that so that people, we the people, have the right, and we have recourse in order to be able to object when people place mandates on us that are unjustified. And the reason why they're unjustified is because we have a school board that doesn't do their own homework. They only take recommendations. They take recommendations from the same health department that doesn't enforce 141C. They don't even act on it because they don't feel it's necessary. So when it comes to having an understanding of what your authority is, now I agree. I think it's really important that the school board keeps us safe. The primary objective is to keep our children educated, to provide an adequate education. It's not their primary objective to keep us safe. We have policemen, we have firemen, we have health departments. We have our legislators to change laws if we need be. One more reminder is that our state is a Dillon's Rule state, which means that all of your power and authority comes from the legislature. It doesn't come from you. You can have policies, for sure. There's no question. But when there's a question as to whether or not if there's ambiguity with respect to what your delegated powers are, you don't have any. That's how the Dillon's Rule works. Can you speak to the Dillon's Rule and how it applies to our state, Mr. Attorney? Can you explain to the crowd what the Dillon's Rule is for us so that can you speak to it?
Mr. O'Shaughnessy, the gentleman asked the question, but it's up to you if you wish to answer it.
I mean, I think what you're saying is that New Hampshire is not a home rule state, that we, as a subdivision, a school board, and a school district as a subdivision of the state, only has the powers that are either express or inherent based on what the legislature has given them under state law. So that's, I think, what you're saying.
Correct.
I think this issue, I mean, just so the public is clear, this issue has been litigated, I think, in 4 or 5 courts. And in all of those decisions, the court has determined that it is inherently within the authority of a school board to issue mask mandates as part of its obligation to keep students and employees safe.
In New Hampshire?
Yes, in New Hampshire.
I have someone else approaching the mic for his first time on the motion to amend, please.
Chris True, True, opposite of false, with a name like that, I'm not going to lie to you. 41 Hunt Pond, Sandown. Just as a clarification, to the best of my knowledge, the New Hampshire legislature has never said to the Timberlane School Board, you have the right to enforce a mask mandate. Excuse me? Thank you very much.
Please continue.
Courts have interpreted various RSAs, saying that the courts are saying that you have the authority to do that. Nowhere in the RSA does it say school boards have the authority to enforce mask mandates. That said, I believe the amendment that is offered clouds the issue. The article, the citizens petition as it is originally presented, is a straightforward position. The school board can do whatever they want to do with knowing that, whatever, 65% of the voters say no. The school board can ignore that all they want. It's just an advisory position. But it's a clear statement that will come from the voters at the next election of where they stand on masks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. True. Anyone else to speak on the amendment? The amendment only. Anyone else? See movement, but I don't know if he's coming to the mic. I don't think so. So I bet we're going to have a count of this. So all in favor of the motion to amend, but I'll read it because it is lengthy. Do you support that the Timberlane Regional School District shall acknowledge that all powers of the local government stem from the legislature, and that only the legislature may explicitly grant the authority to implement a face mask mandate to the district? That's the motion, made and seconded. If you're in favor of that amendment, please raise your cards and keep them up. Not yet. Okay, you can place them down. All those against the motion to amend, raise your card. I think it's quite apparent the motion fails. So now we're back to the main motion, the actual article as written, Article 11. Is there any other discussion on Article 11 as written? Yep, I see someone coming down. Name and address for the clerk, please.
Melissa Marr, 6'8", Lower Road, Plastow.
We couldn't hear you. You have to get a little closer.
Melissa Marr, 6A, Lower Road, Plastow.
Thank you, Melissa.
I think that the intent of this question is inherently good. It would be nice to see what the community thinks about how the last 2 years have went, and it would have been even better if the parents had been polled on this. However, I feel like where there is a change up, where in the next week we will be going to option, that it might be confusing to the voters as far as what they're voting on. Because at that moment when they're voting, it will be mask optional. We got emails saying that as of on the 21st, it will be optional. Is that not happening?
Not the school board voting this yet?
We don't vote on that.
Are you trying to tell us that now that isn't going to happen?
No, it doesn't. The superintendent. I don't have the school board had to vote on this.
No, it doesn't go to a school board vote. I was given the authority.
Very good. Wouldn't you like to know so the following week it doesn't go back?
Yes, no, I think that but I feel like maybe the original person who made this could maybe clarify it a little bit or amend it to make it
simple.
So, but what I'm saying is, it in its simplest form is confusing. So if you're going to vote, they're asking the requirement for face mask mandate during the voting in March should be optional. So if they're going to vote, they'll say, well, am I in favor of the optional, or am I, do you see where that is confusing a little bit by the time the vote comes?
You know.
Should have a point of inquiry. So the only vote by the board was to follow that matrix, correct? That happened in roughly the beginning of August. That was the vote by the board, right? And that's what determined if the kids were wearing masks or not?
The board voted on a return to school plan.
Okay, so the board decided if the kids wore masks or not. Was there another board vote regarding masks?
Again, the board voted on a return to school plan. The board did not vote on masks or no masks explicitly. There was a very detailed, involved plan that the board voted on.
So there wasn't was there another vote? You're still following your original vote, correct? So if that matrix is,
We are.
so you made an announcement for 2 weeks, and if that matrix changes, the kids will be wearing masks, correct?
The matrix was removed from, or New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services no longer provides that matrix. We are continuing to move forward following that original guidance, and at this time, we anticipate that we will fall below substantial even according to that guidance. And at this, based on all the data that we have, that we are planning to move to mask optional on February 21st.
So that's not a given, that's just a projected date, correct?
It's a projected date using all of the data that we've had, and also with the understanding that the collection of data has changed, and so that the validity of that data will have changed, but it's essentially going to disappear, much of that data, if not all.
What data are you referring to?
The what?
The matrix data, is that what you're referring to?
Not the, well, you're talking, it depends what matrix you're talking about. So the data of positive cases, the 7-day positive case per 100,000, or the 14-day positive case per 100,000, or the local data, which I can't begin to explain the calculation. I know Mr. Pedersen could, but I don't know that that's necessary at this time.
Okay, I just want to speak to the affirmative. I know that this is, again, one shows that parents don't have control. This is just a petition, but I would like you to vote for this because it could be masked again at any time. Thank you.
Does anyone new wish to speak on the main motion? Anyone new? So I'll recognize the lady at the mic.
Melissa Mar-Plastow. I'd like to make an amendment to the original motion.
Would you like to read your amendment?
Do you support the school district's change of guidelines to make face masks optional?
Do I have a second on that, name and address? Get that? Tracy Hernandez, Main Street, Atkinson, I couldn't hear the number. 177 Main Street, Atkinson. The maker's going to submit her motion. You signed it, correct? Thank you. Before I ask for further discussion, I'll read it again. Amendment, do you support the school district's change of guidelines to make face masks optional? Anyone else wish to speak to the motion to amend? Do you support the school district's, probably should say Timberlane Regional School District, change of guidelines to make face masks optional? Does the maker and the second agree to add Timberlane Regional in front of school district? Okay, thank you. Just follows along with what we're doing. I will read it again. Do you support the Timberlane Regional School District's change of guidelines to make face masks optional? Again, do you support the Timberlane Regional School District's change of guidelines to make face masks optional? Sounds like the original, except basically face masks optional. That's the motion made and seconded, and made as amended, agreed to insert Timberlane Regional School in front of school district. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes, sir?
Sandown. Question as...
Could you say your name again? The mic just got turned.
Certainly. Mark Sherwood, Sandown.
Sir, Mr. Sherwood, we need the address.
11 Excalibur Drive. Just a point of inquiry, and this is honestly intended. I'm not certain what the intent is. Right now, personally, I would vote yes, I think it should be. 6 months ago, I would have voted no, just because of the difference between Omicron and Delta. I'm not certain what the intent would be with this. Is this for currently? Are we supporting mandatory, or is this ad infinitum, going into the future regardless of what happens? I'm just curious as to the intent.
Does the maker wish to answer his question? It's up to you.
At this point in time. So, if I may, you are. So I'm wondering if that could be amended to, at this point in time, are you in support of? I think that would make it clear. If you could rewrite that, you have my vote.
So we thank the inquiry. The maker says they're not changing the motion. I have a new speaker at the mic. Yes, ma'am.
Carrie Patlas, 260 Main Street, Plastow. Just point of clarification. So the way that this is written, if I am a voter and I want my kids to wear a mask, I can vote no, right? So it opens it up that much more, so it's not truly an accurate yes or a no. It gives everyone a choice to say, I don't want my kid, I don't want optional, because I want it mandatory, correct? The way that the language is written. Okay, thank you.
If you want to speak, you must approach the microphone and give your name and be recognized. Thank you. Name and address?
Nicholas Tilden, 6A Barker Street, Plastow. So you're saying that if you want your kid to wear a mask, you can still vote yes because it's optional. If you want our kids to have to wear a mask, then you would vote no and make it not optional. So you said if you wanted your kid to wear a mask. If you want your kid to wear a mask, It's an option.
Correct.
So you,
Mr. Moderator, I'm sorry, I'm addressing you.
I think she says yes. I think this is a difficult topic.
I'm just
and
trying to understand the
No matter
language
how
of it.
this is worded, people have an option to vote yes or no, and it's hard to tell what their intent is if they vote yes or no.
Yeah, the
All we
language
can
currently
do,
on the
sir,
amendment
is, this is the motion as the maker and second made it. To
I'm
make
just
face masks, do you agree? Do you support the Timberline Regional School District's change of guidelines to make face masks optional?
Right, I'm just saying to her question was, if I want my child to wear a mask, then I have to vote no, and the answer to that is no. You can still vote yes, because the difference is it's not mandatory for all kids. So if she wants her child to still wear a mask, she can vote yes, it's okay to make it optional, because then her child can still wear a mask, but mine doesn't have to. If she wants it to not be optional, if she wants my kid to wear a mask as well, then she would vote to make it mandatory. So in other words, she's trying to make a decision for my kids.
I understand your comment. That's a good comment. I'm glad I'm not writing the voter's guide for this.
Thank you for clarification, Mr. Moderator.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks.
And any other comments on the amendment? On the amendment? Yes.
To Mr. Pelletier's question. So you received some information, right, where I've explained, or we've explained, that we anticipate on February 21st to be through all of the cases that we are currently identified for our clusters and outbreaks. And if you look on the daily COVID data, you see that those numbers are coming down. And in the absence of any new data, which is no longer being collected, we expect that all of that data will reflect that we are below substantial. And it is definitely the intent for us to go to mask optional on February 21st, barring some other extreme change or circumstance.
Just to clarify, if the current levels right now would not warrant that to be maskless with your clusters currently, correct?
Currently, correct.
So if that level maintained until the 21st, then the children would still be wearing masks, correct?
Not necessarily, not all. We could look at targeted mask wearing. So we're moving forward with a revising that return to school plan that might require targeted mask wearing in specific schools or grades or whatever.
Okay. But yeah, it's not mask optional on the 21st. There's other factors that can play into.
There may be. As of right now, we don't expect other factors to come into play.
Thank you.
I don't know if this gentleman's going to the mic. My rules say if there's somebody at the mic, I'm going to let them speak if they haven't spoken before, so. On the motion to amend only. On the motion to amend only.
Yes, hi, Jackie Wydola, 2 Balsam-Port, Atkinson, New Hampshire. I just wanted a point of clarification on your targeting masks and how that works with the matrix, if somebody, how that works, like what does that look like?
That would be discussed at another school board meeting when we bring the plan forward. That's what we're still working on, to be honest. That's what we're still working on.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, the other gentleman, yes.
Yes, I do understand the intent of the amendment submitter, but I will be voting against this because of the points that were just brought on up here about the confusing of what it means to do this. In the original article, and when I thought about all this stuff, I was trying to do exactly what Representative True highlighted, make it very simple and right to the point. When you talk about a face mask mandate in a sentence, that speaks on itself. And I'd like to keep it that way. This is my personal recommendation to everybody, so we can find out exactly where this district stands.
Thank you. Ms. Keisha, did you want to say something? Did you have your hand raised? You're just trying to get my attention. You did. Thank you. Is this a new speaker to approach the mic? This gentleman was here before. You were not at the mic before, and I had a call for the question. But let's see how long he takes. Go ahead. Name and address, please.
Dave Drizzline, 12 Quimby Court, Danville, New Hampshire. Just for the record, for this change that's coming up on the 21st, can we find out who made the change? Who exactly the change?
I'll ask
Or who
the
was in charge of that?
superintendent if he wishes to respond to that.
I did.
Okay, just you?
No, with our team.
Okay, so you and...
But what's your question?
We just want to know for the record, who made the change?
Oh, what changed? I'm not sure what changed. Yes.
To go mask optional on the 21st.
I am going to rule the question and any comment about a February 21st vote or change that hasn't occurred yet, not applicable to the motion to amend.
Okay.
To always give everyone a chance to speak, this will be the last speaker that I'm going to recognize before we call the question, and I'll read the motion again. This is only on the motion to amend.
Okay. Jim Serpian, 29 Cottonwood, Plastow. I'll say it's a question, it might not get answered, but is there still a mandate in place with the new plan of mass optional if a certain number gets above a threshold? Again, may not answer it, but if that's the case, then there still can be a mandate in place even with mass optional.
Does the superintendent wish to address that?
I'm struggling with the term of mandate, quite frankly. But
point being, let's say something hits 100, whatever 100 is.
Yeah, right.
Then everyone's in mass. That means masks are mandated at 100. Again, just an arbitrary number.
Yeah, we would consider the guidance of the Department of Health and Human Services and their recommendations and give consideration to the safety of our students and our staff.
Okay. So in that, my opinion then, there still can be a mask mandate in place even with an optional plan because it has that top level item.
Potentially,
Okay.
but
Just point of clarity.
yeah,
Okay.
we're looking at trying to limit.
Yep.
it.
Agree. Okay.
Thank you for the question, and now I'm going to read the motion to amend again, the amendment, and then we'll take cards, we'll take a card call. We won't count them initially to see how close it is. So the amendment, do you support the Timberlane Regional School District's change of guidelines to make face masks optional? If you're in favor of that amendment, just please raise your cards. If you're opposed to the amendment, raise your card. I ruled that the opponents win and the motion to amend fails. Any further discussion on the main motion on Article 11? Ask one more time. Any discussion on the main motion, Article 11? Name and address for the record, please.
Osvaldo Hernandez Jr., 177 Main Street, Atkinson, New Hampshire. This is just a comment on this mask and all this question and stuff like that. I just want to let you know that I and my wife, myself, we enrolled our kids recently in a private school because we don't want our children to be in your control anymore. It's just as simple as that. It breaks my heart because I moved to Atkinson to get away from all the crap out of Lowell and Dragut and all that bull. Come up here and thought it was a nice town. I don't want you guys anywhere near my children, any kind of influence.
I'm calling one more time. Any further discussion? Seeing no one at this time approaching the mics, Article 11 will appear on the ballot as written. I had a motion to reconstruct. Consideration made by? Seconded by? Kathy Slade. Okay, we have a motion to restrict reconsideration. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your cards. Place them down. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Article 11 is restricted from reconsideration. Article 12, Citizens petition question. To see if the Timberlane School District shall vote to withdraw its membership in the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. Upon passage of this article, the Timberlane School District shall no longer be a member of the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, and no money shall be transferred, spent, or contributed by the Timberlane School District to the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. I don't know who made this motion, but I'll accept a motion to place Article 12 on the ballot as written. Would someone like to make that motion? Name and address for the record. I believe she has your address, Mr. True. Do we have a second? Name and address officially for the clerk. Who would like to discuss Article 12? Does the maker wish to discuss it? You see someone approaching the mic. Name and address, please.
David Kiley, 17 Knightman Road, Atkinson, New Hampshire. So the reason why I originated this citizens petition was specifically to address the partisanship that has been displayed by the New Hampshire School Administrators Association with respect to the, I don't have a great word for this, but for the adversarial position that they've taken against several bills in the legislature that have been in support of pro-parental choice in education. There's also been several partisan attacks on certain politicians by their executive director, Dark Ladd, specifically on our Commissioner of Education, Frank Edelblue, who addressed his constituents, which is fundamentally required by Article 8, yet was told pretty harshly that he went behind the backs of the school superintendents of the state. I thought that was quite astounding to me to sort of hear that lack of understanding about how our representatives, whether they're appointed or elected, and how they're accountable to us. So, just to be specific, he's been also cited as coming out against bills that protect parents' rights from administrators that are negligent with respect to bullying. He's been anti-voucher, he's been anti-choice, he's been, certainly he came out against the 554 bill last year that got passed in, I believe it was Senate Bill 2B under the Budget Act for divisive topics. So there's been a lot of things that have been very concerning to parents that he's only picked one side on. And I just think that taxpayer money should be extremely neutral as possible. And if our taxpayer money is really funding an organization like the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, we're really funding an organization to be adversarial towards our own tax dollars. That's pretty much what I have to say on it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak on Article 12? I had someone at the mic first, Mr. Superintendent. I think she was standing there before.
Carrie Patlas, 260 Main Street, Plastow. Again, point of clarification question that this particular citizens petition, is this a non-binding petition also, regardless of the language that the school board does not have to take action based on the results in either direction of this citizens petition? And I will ask that question for the next one, so if you can answer both at the same time. If not, I'm happy to sit and do it again. Thank you.
Mr. O'Shaughnessy, do you wish to answer that question?
Sure. There's a component of this where it's quite clear that the prohibition against spending money or making contributions to the association directly is, I think that's binding. So there's a law in New Hampshire, RSA 3210, that prohibits a district from expending money where the legislative body has voted that no money shall be spent for that purpose. So I think that that component of this is clearly binding.
So this citizen's petition is different than the previous citizen's petition in that this is a binding yes or no that the school board would have to take action on regardless of, depending on the results.
Yeah, I think it would bar them from spending money for this purpose if it was voted by a majority of the voters in March.
And can I ask if that applies to the next warrant article also, or should I wait until that comes up?
I mean, it's easy enough. It would apply to both.
Okay, so both of these are binding citizens petitions?
With respect to the expenditure of the money, yes.
Correct, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I believe the superintendent was next.
That's right. Would you still wish to speak, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, I do. I'd just like to provide some clarification with regard to a couple of things about the NHSAA, the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. The district does not pay a membership or fund the New Hampshire School Administrators Association. The district has contractual obligations to a number of administrators where the district funds their individual memberships to this organization. And this organization provides extensive professional development and training. They provide graduate coursework for administrators at a very low cost. They provide legislative updates to ensure compliance with state and federal laws and rules. And they provide administrative support and coordination of coordination across the state with other administrators. In addition, they provide legal advice. And just to give you an understanding of the cost, I did a 6-year average, and the 6-year average that we have spent has been $9,016. And I can tell you the benefit that administrators receive at that cost is extraordinary compared to what that cost would be if we were to have to go out and fund all of those activities and provide that learning for those, for all of us, quite frankly.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I'll recognize the speaker on the platform.
I'd like to make an amendment that we just add to the end of this, advisory only, please.
I'm sure you've written that down and then signed your name to it.
I just need a second. It's a motion, I need a second.
So the motion is not to amend the article by changing anything in it, but to add advisory only at the end of the article. Made and seconded. Discussion on the motion to add advisory only at the end of the article.
For Willard Way Plastow. I have a question for Mr. O'Shaughnessy, if that would then make it non-binding, or if the prior wording in it would still make it binding.
I think it would be non-binding if it was advisory. So, it would be, we are asking you not to spend money on membership rather than we are prohibiting you from spending money on a membership. And so if it was advisory, it wouldn't be binding and it wouldn't trigger no means no under RSA 3210, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. Name and address.
Dennis Griffiths, Danville, New Hampshire, 131 Elm Drive. Superintendent Cullen, thank you for explaining that there is actually more that the New Hampshire School Administration does. I've read quite a lot on it, and quite frankly, there's a lot of good things. But what I would like to ask is something very specific on a resolution that they passed, and I'm asking that we get a roll call for the school board tonight if they support this specific resolution that they had adopted. And if you allow me to read it, I understand that you don't have to accept to choose to raise your hand whether you would accept this or not, but I think it's important that the public understands.
I hear a lot of people asking me for a point of order, and I appreciate that you'd like to get an answer from the board, but in my opinion, it doesn't relate to the motion to amend to add advisory only.
Oh, well,
We're only talking about...
Apologies, I'm not on the advisory only. I will step back and let that...
Okay, so we're only talking about the motion to amend that was made and seconded to add advisory only. I see a gentleman would like to speak to that. Yes, no?
Same Nicholas Tilden, same 6A Barker Street, Blastow. So the motion to add advisory is basically in an attempt to create a dictatorship. Is that my understanding?
We had said that we're going to treat everybody fairly, and I can tell you at the State House, we wouldn't allow people to say things like that.
To say dictatorship?
Yeah. The question is, are you for or against adding advisory only, and you're speaking on that?
Yes, that's what I'm speaking on. So our attorney stated that without the advisory only, then in the motion, if the motion got voted on, then it would be binding. When you add advisory, that means that you don't care what the people say, you're going to make your own decision anyways. So that's an attempt to override the rules and turn it into a, no matter what the people say, I'm going to do what I want anyways, right? So that's a dictatorship.
So you're against the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we're not answering the dictatorship thing?
I'm not answering it.
Sheila, you can't speak to me as a dictator?
Just point of order.
Is there a different definition that I can use besides dictator that's more comfortable for you?
It's not only me, I'm listening to the legislative body here.
I know, I'm asking so that the next time I come up, I can use a different word. Totalitarian, is that acceptable?
How about we let the gentleman, I don't have an answer for you, sir, so can we have the gentleman behind
I think the answer is pretty clear.
Because I'm not a member of the school, I'm not a member of the legislative board, of the legislation here, so I don't have a choice either.
I'm going to go to Mr. True, then I'm going to go to this gentleman. On the motion to amend only, please.
Chris True, Sandown, New Hampshire. Question of the moderator. Do we have legal counsel here tonight?
Mr. O'Shaughnessy is the school district legal.
Mr. O'Shaughnessy, my question is, as the citizens petition reads, basically it's saying no means no. And I'd like your ruling on whether this amendment to do away with the citizens petition of no means no by saying, whatever you want to do, is a legal amendment.
Yes, it's legal. It doesn't change the subject matter. It modifies the outcome of the vote, but that's not illegal to do at a deliberative session.
Recognize this gentleman here. Name and address.
Michael Boucher, 19 North Broadway, Atkinson, New Hampshire. So, as I understand it right now with the amendment, as it's advisory only, it's non-binding, right?
If it passes.
Okay. And, based on, the description that Superintendent Kalin, described about what the association does, it sounds like there's quite a bit that it does that a lot of voters don't know about. So I think it'd be best to keep it as at advisory.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Terosian.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Peter Terosian, 18 Pinewell Drive, Atkinson, New Hampshire. I'm speaking against the amendment to the motion to make it advisory only. I think it's pretty clear what the intent of the petition is as it's written. I believe anytime you can give the citizens that you represent, the parents and students, those that are 18 or older, the chance to vote on what they believe is right, that's good business. I think that by making it advisory only, you can just ignore what people say. So I hope that you vote against the advisory only, and let's give the voters of the district the chance to speak. Thank you.
I'm speaking against the amendment.
Your name again?
Steve Maglio.
Thank you.
This is very plain. The voters want to vote on it, and then they want it to happen. They vote on school board members to carry out their desires for their children. So when you say you want to change this to an advisory, so that when they tell you what they want, you can do something else, is telling them you want them to vote for someone else. And that goes for both amendments.
Mr. Pelletier?
I would like to speak again, Nolan Pelletier, 24 North Ave. I would like to speak against this amendment, and I would also like to say that I think this most certainly does change the intent of this proposed petition. It changes it from actually doing something to changing it to a strongly worded opinion. So I believe that most certainly does change the intent of this position.
Anyone else wish to speak on the motion only, the motion to amend to add advisory only? Barbara Kishka.
Barbara Kishka, Blasto. I'm against this amendment, having been on the other side of submitting a citizen's petition before and having people take the teeth out of it. It felt awful, and so just as a do unto others, I don't like to see the teeth taken out of citizens' petitions.
Barbara, for the record, Barbara, your address? The other address? Yes, your address. Ms. Slade?
Ms. Slade, 124 Willard Way, Plastow. I'm for this amendment, and I think other people have spoken about it, that this membership brings value to us, and a tremendous amount of value. I know some of our administrators have relied heavily on it in this last couple of years, that it's made a tremendous difference in what we've been able to accomplish in our staff. And I think it's ill-advised. I think there's not a general understanding of what really would be lost if that passed. So.
Thank you.
Oswaldo Hernandez Jr. again, Atkinson, New Hampshire, 177 Main Street. This amendment to advise is the exact reason why I pulled my children out of you guys' school system. This money being distributed to this, it's basically teachers union, right? Is that what it is? The teachers administration, you guys act in the same manner though. You guys have this critical race theory crap that you're teaching in school. You're teaching face mask.
Can you speak to them? I understand you have a concern. Can you just speak to the amendment? I know you're against it.
When you take the teeth out of our vote, like even if it's yes or no or yes, who are you to decide? Like just one person can decide over everybody else's judgment?
As a point of order, the motion was made to amend, it was seconded, but it hasn't passed yet, and you're speaking against it. So we're going to take a vote in a moment, and then we'll see.
So with all our money being given to this administration, right, what do you guys do with that money?
It's not related to the advisory-only motion to amend, which you've already stated you're against. This is a new speaker. I'll recognize the new speaker.
Ernie Cullen, 110 Willard Way. Anybody is allowed to put in a petition. This is the voted body for tonight. And anybody sitting here is allowed to voice their opinion and to change it. And if the majority of the people here decide to change it, that's what it is. The majority wins.
Anyone new to speak? Anyone new to speak? I have a new speaker coming, and I see a new speaker there. And then we'll get to you, Mr. Pelletier.
Todd McCormick, Danville, 90 Walker Road. So I see a lot of new faces who have never come to a deliberative here tonight, and that's totally fine. I applaud you for coming and being involved. But this is the first vote, and the second vote is in March. And there are dozens of people in this room, some on the stage, who have taken the teeth out of other people's citizens' petitions. And I've seen this year over year over year. This is how it works. You show up and you vote. And you can make an amendment after this amendment, whether it passes or fails, and I don't know if I'm going to vote for it or not, somebody can go up here and change all kinds of the words. That's just how the process works. We're an SB2. You meet at the deliberative, it works the same way in the towns, and then you go and vote in March. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Did that gentleman in the front want to speak? Yes, not. He has stood up. You all done?
I haven't started.
Oh.
So no. May I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I thought you were done, I'm sorry.
No, he was talking. I was listening quietly. Eric Susi, 21 Amberwood, Atkinson. This is a question, just a clarifying question. If we don't have this membership, that money that we would save by not doing that, would that adversely affect the additional spending that we would have to do for subsequent budgets? So if we spend, I'm just going to say a number, if we spend $10,000 on this, but when we withdraw that $10,000, we're not in this anymore, but we have an incremental $50,000, $60,000 of expenses, that's a real thing, right?
The problem would probably be twofold. We would incur additional expenses, probably well in excess of the cost that we're currently paying NHSAA, and we would also be violating contractual obligations, and that would probably result in additional legal costs to resolve those matters.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pelletier?
I'm still speaking against this. I still think that it changes the intent of this, and the answer to that is don't change the intent, let it go out to the voters, and if they don't want it, they just vote no.
I'll take one more speaker. Yes, sir.
Dave Hiley, 17 Knightland Road, Atkinson. So the only thing I'll say, I want to speak to the spending, whether it's 10,000. You know, I realize that there are potential cost consequences to this. There also may not be. There also may be potential cost consequences to continue to allow partisan organizations to essentially get us into a lot of hot water with legislations and narratives that they push that force us to seek, legal recourse in other ways. So I'm not so sure that we really know where the money stands. I know that those reasons, although I'm sure they do a lot of good, you can't take an untenable relationship with the public and the public's money and just say, well, because we do good, we can do bad. I don't think that's a really good relationship with the taxpayers' money. Thank you.
Okay. Last speaker.
I'm against the amendment.
Just two quick questions. The $9,000, is that the only monies that are transferred? That average over 6 years, $9,000 a year?
That's a 6-year average that I did, and it ranged from 3,000 and some change.
But there weren't other monies for other things, it's just that 9,000 for the training they provide.
Well, it's an individual membership. So, and each individual membership is actually based on the salary of the individual.
I'll clarify the question again.
Okay.
Is that the only monies that transfer to the association?
Yes, we don't pay them.
So that was the first question. And the second question is any of that training SEL training?
Yes. Social emotional learning.
Okay, that was the last person I was going to recognize. So I'm going to read I'm not going to read the whole motion. It's just to add advisory only at the end of Article 12, made and seconded. So we may need to take a count. We'll find out first by asking you to raise your cards, and then if it's close, I'll have the assistant moderators count your cards. So if you're in favor of adding advisory only to Article 12, please raise your cards. Thank you. If you're opposed, please raise your card. I'm going to ask for a count. I think the ayes have it, but I'd like us to all be sure. So can my assistant moderators, if you're in favor, the negative can put your cards down. If you're in favor of the motion to add advisory only, raise your cards and keep them raised till we're done counting. You're set, Chris. We all set, Mr. Major? Okay, so if you're opposed to adding advisory only to the motion, raise your cards and please keep them up. Vote is in. In favor, 99, opposed, 72. So the ayes have it. The Article 12 is amended at this time by adding advisory only at the end. Any more discussion on the motion as amended? As amended, yes, sir. On the motion as amended.
I would actually like to make an amendment to that amendment.
Would you read your amendment and submit it to us with a signature?
Sure. So it's, it's basically the same language. To see if the Timberland School District shall vote to withdraw its membership in the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, and then I'm going to strike the whole next sentence and make it advisory only.
I'll let you submit it, but I'm going to take some counsel on that because I think my initial thought is that by adding advisory only at the end, which they've already passed, striking the no payment is really not needed because it's advisory only. Mr. Shaughnessy, do you agree with my caption on that? I understand his concern about striking the second sentence, but if you have advisory only, then the second sentence doesn't become applicable under the motion as presently on the floor, correct?
Yeah, I'm not as comfortable with this amendment in terms of, I mean, the law says you can change the intent and the outcome of any warrant article. You can't change the subject matter. There are some amendments that take it a little too far and enter sort of this gray area, and I'm a little less comfortable with striking that, and I'm comfortable that the making it advisory only has already accomplished what you're trying to accomplish by striking that language. So, just from a legal standpoint, I'm not that comfortable with that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Shaughnessy. That was my concern. I think what you want to do, it's already been done. On the motion as amended, motion is a new speaker, motion as amended. Yes, sir.
Rob Collins, 75 Walker Road, Danville. Attorney O'Shaughnessy, can you guarantee for us that no means no will not be challenged in a court of law with this as it's written currently?
My insurance carrier isn't available right now, so I can't make that guarantee.
Right.
I'm a lawyer. I don't guarantee anything.
So, completely understand. So saying it's advisory only where it also states the second sentence, which is a directive, isn't that conflicting?
No, I think the advisory only makes the whole article advisory. So the decision to expend the money or not is up to the board at that point if the article passes as amended.
Any other discussion on the article as amended? I don't think your mic's on.
It's not on. Kristen Savage Plasto, School Board. Attorney O'Shaughnessy, just my question for you is the same concern that Mr. Collins just had. If the article were amended to say to study, to withdraw its membership in the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, upon passage of the article, the Tim Lane School District shall study whether to be a member, even though it's advisory only. The concern is, and I'm hearing this from the membership, is if we don't have that in there, are we now opening this up to potential litigation and other problems? So just to confirm that. So would be changing that to study, change the intent and change the...
So I mean, I understand your question. I've sort of already answered it, and it's kind of like the lesser of two evils, which is the lesser of the two evils, because either way, there's no guarantee. I know this body in different years, I've been asked that same question even by the same person. Mr. Collins, I think, has asked this question about whether that would prevent us from spending the money if it passed as worded. I think I'm more comfortable with that than I am with striking out the expenditure language and running the risk that you've gone too far and actually have modified the subject matter of the article.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Just to be clear, I'm giving a legal opinion. I'm certainly not telling the body what to do, and I don't make that decision. That's up to you.
Yes, sir, at the mic. On the motion as amended.
Nicholas Tilden again. My question is just, if I could ask the superintendent, if this passed, is there an alternative to this particular program that you're aware of?
There is not another organization that would provide the specific type of support and connection to the New Hampshire laws and rules with respect to education. There, as far as professional development goes, there would be a number of other opportunities for professional development. We wouldn't have access to an organization that specifies in that kind of professional development and leadership training specific to New Hampshire. So I think the short answer is no, but there are other professional development opportunities and learning opportunities and leadership and things that are not New Hampshire specific and would likely cost more ultimately. I can't say that definitively now. That could be something that could be studied.
And one more question, you can answer it if you so choose or don't. It's, do you feel like this particular, do you feel like this has made you a better administrator being involved in this? That's my question. You can answer that or don't, so it's entirely up to you. I'm not trying to assassinate your character, I'm asking.
No, sure. Having participated in a number of professional development opportunities that they've provided and the connection that they provide to other administrators, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Terosian.
Thank you again, Mr. Moderator. Peter Terosian, still at 18 Pine Hill Drive, Atkinson, New Hampshire. After hearing the attorney's suggestion that the First Amendment we did probably does not change the subject matter, but if this other amendment were to go through, it would, I suggest that we don't want to do that other amendment because there may be a legal issue there if that was violated, changing the subject matter. So I would suggest I will now support the petition as the First Amendment was done, and I hope we can move the question. Thank you.
Okay, one last speaker at the mic.
I just want some clarification. Changing, after it's made advisory, to remove transfer spending, contribute monies, would change the content of the citizens' petition to begin with. But making it, and that's illegal, but totally changing it from something that would become law, basically, something that you have to follow, to something that's just, this is just what we're thinking, that's legal. That doesn't make sense. You're totally changing it, not just clarifying something. You're making a totally different amendment than what the petitioner submitted.
Last comment. You weren't at the mic before, but I'll give you the right to speak. Go ahead.
Rob Collins, 75 Walker Road, Danville. I want to make an amendment. So it would keep the first sentence, and then it would say, upon passage of this article, the Timberlane School District shall study, being a member.
Question? There was a motion to move the question.
Thank you.
But I had ruled that I would let this last gentleman speak because he hasn't spoken before, or he was.
I did speak.
But he was approaching the mic. If you would like me to shut this gentleman from speaking and making a motion, I'll be happy to take a vote on it. I have a motion to move the question, so I'm going to take a vote on the motion. All those in favor of moving the question, raise your card. Any opposed, raise your cards. Okay, I believe the ayes have it, so we're moving the question. And the question's already been made and seconded for the amendment that passed, so the question will appear on the ballot as amended. Article 12 will appear on the ballot as amended. I have someone that said they would like to move to restrict reconsideration of Article 12. Can they say their name and address? Oh, Kathy Slade. Do we have a second on that? We have a second. Thank you. Any discussion on the to restrict reconsideration? Seeing none, if you're in favor of restricting reconsideration on Article 12 as amended, raise your card. Thank you. If you're opposed, raise your cards. The ayes have it. Article 12, as amended, is restricted from reconsideration. Final article. And I will say this before I read the final article, because I know once we're done, everybody's going to leave. Remember, March 8th to come and vote at your applicable towns where you should vote. I want to thank everybody here today. I tell you, I think it's been a great deliberative session. I want to thank again the Timberlane High School Chamber, and I'd like to thank our cable TV for televising this and making it accessible. Article 13, Citizens Petition Question. To see if the Timberlane School District shall vote to withdraw its membership in the New Hampshire School Boards Association. Upon passage of this article, the Timberlane School District shall no longer be a member of the New Hampshire School Board Association, and no money shall be transferred, spent, or contributed by the Timberlane School District to the New Hampshire School Boards Association. Do I have a motion to place Article 13 on the ballot as written?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion made. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Would someone like to speak on Article 13? Yes. Go ahead.
Similar to the last association, there are some differences. The New Hampshire School Boards Association, we do pay an annual membership. We pay an annual membership of approximately $6,400. That membership provides us with collective bargaining agreements database, legal support, legislative information, draft policies, which we build all of our policies from, comparing our former policies or policies being considered to be amended to the New Hampshire School Board Association policies. They also provide extensive professional development and training, and they provide strategic planning support. So they provide a number of other resources at a very reasonable cost. The policy piece alone would cost us probably tens of thousands of dollars in other legal fees. Sorry, Jim, but the support that's provided through this association is really critical to our being able to address our policies at a reasonable cost.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I'll recognize the gentleman at the mic.
David Kiley, 17 Knightland Road, Atkinson, New Hampshire. Once again, I will acknowledge that this organization, just like the School Administrators Association, provides a very good benefit to the district. However, once again, we are faced with some pretty critical things that have happened, even very recently, with respect to the School Board Association at our state school board, the New Hampshire School Board Association, is a member of the national. And if you're not familiar with what that entails in terms of being associated with the national, we have about $21,000 of our taxpayer money that goes to the National School Board Association. Okay, so we're directly connected with an organization that sent a letter to the Department of Justice, to the White House, which in turn led to the Department of Justice to intimidate parents coming to school board meetings by referring to them as domestic terrorists if they were speaking out against masks or speaking out against CRT, which I find very disheartening. So as much as I do want to say, I want to clarify, I do commend the New Hampshire School Board Association for withdrawing officially on October 31st. I think that's a good thing. But it took them very close to a month. Actually, they announced it on the 28th, 1 day short of a month, to actually acknowledge that they needed to withdraw from this organization. They've already paid their dues. I confirmed that with the executive director. So they're in for the year, although they've withdrawn. And there's no guarantee they won't rejoin. This national organization has been essentially told, and if anyone wants to think I'm fake news, I've got the emails, which are done through a FOIA request. Thanks for the head motions up there, board. I've got the emails from the FOIA request, which show that our Secretary of Education actually requested that they write this letter that attacks parents. So we have extraordinarily partisan organizations, which I strongly urge that we figure out replacements for. Because if they're going to be anti-parent, if they're going to be political, if they're going to be partisan, they really have no business getting our tax dollars. We're just a flow-through for our tax dollars to go to organizations that are attacking us. These are our kids. They're in our schools as taxpayers. And I don't really have too much to add to that. I think it makes complete sense. Thank you.
We're going to recognize the gentleman in the plaid shirt, and then the lady on the podium that has her hand raised before. After those two, because you walked over from your seat and sat down. I believe he was standing up already, so you will be given an opportunity to speak. So you'll wave off, then I'll recognize the speaker on the podium first.
Dennis Griffiths, Danville.
Mr. Griffin, I'm recognizing the lady
Griffiths,
on the podium,
Danville.
please, and then I'll come to you.
I'm going to pass my turn.
You're going to wave? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's spelled right?
No, the mic got shut off. I don't think she heard you. Would you like to repeat it?
Griffiths, not Griffin. So I have just a series of questions, 3 really. Just to follow on to the last speaker. Do our dollars that we contribute to the School Board Association, are those dollars used by the School Board Association in any kind of lobbying effort to our legislature or federal legislatures?
Know how the funds are distributed among their, within their organization.
Okay, so to be clear, you don't know if this organization has a lobbying group that lobbies the state legislature to change laws?
I do not know if they have a lobbying group.
I go to
Does anybody up there
I do.
know that?
As the annual, I go to the state delegates for this, and we as delegates vote on a number of laws that are coming up in our position, and they do take positions on different pieces of legislation. It's voted by the school board members who attend the annual meeting, so they do take positions on pieces of legislation that are school related.
Thank you, Barbara. So just to be clear, plain language, my tax dollars end up somehow, some way contributing to this organization who ultimately could be by vote of the school board members at that meeting lobbying against my best interests, in my opinion.
That is correct. But it is by the vote of your elected members that go and represent you.
I understand that. I get that. Thank you. Okay, the second question is, the resolutions that the New Hampshire School Board Association passes, are those binding to our local school board? Meaning whatever rules that they decide to vote on within that, are you bound to follow those?
No, these are pieces of legislation that go to our state legislature.
I think you're misunderstanding. So there are resolutions that are taken at the school board meeting, at the New Hampshire School Boards Association meetings, correct?
Yes, they do take positions.
Okay. The positions that they take, and once they take a position and it's passed by majority, is this school board bound by those resolutions that they vote, that you guys vote on?
No, these are more opinion things, and it takes 3 years for something to become a position of the New Hampshire School Board. So 3 years running, it's not just 1 year, it takes 3 years for something to become accepted.
And once it becomes accepted, are you bound to follow those as the school board as being a member?
They aren't that kind of, it's an opinion, it's
advisory.
it's not a regulation.
Okay, it is advisory. Okay, fair enough. So, and the last question is, and I understand that I'm probably not going to get satisfaction on this, but there is a resolution that was passed. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it has well, you know what, I'll read the whole thing. NHSBA supports language and legislation that provides parents rights to opt out of content and programs that they feel are not appropriate for their children. However, NHSBA opposes language requiring parents to opt in to content and programs for their children. Opt-in language creates, and here's the issue that I have, opt-in language creates an undue burden on the school district to account for every student who would participate versus the few who choose not to participate. So, that being said, I think that's an opinion of what they're saying, that some may, that there's more than others, that they've already decided how many people in a majority. So the question for the school board tonight is, is it an undue burden? And if so, for an opt-in option for parents? Is it an undue burden? And if so, why? And I'd like a roll call on every member here to tell me why it's an undue burden to allow parents to opt in.
I'm going to have to rule your question to the board, which they don't have to answer anyways, out of order, because we're only talking about the citizens petition. I let you speak because I give people right to speak, and you started speaking, and in my opinion, you were giving your opinion, you're for this motion. So I let you speak, but to ask the board on something that's not in the motion, how they feel, I think that's out of order. But we got your opinion. You're in favor of this motion as written, correct?
No, that's not my opinion.
You're not in favor of the motion?
I didn't offer it, but I think I have my answer, that the school board will not stand up and say that they would do that. It's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Someone to speak on the motion on the floor, which is Article 13 as written. Yes, sir.
Joshua Manning, 121 Caleb Drive, Danville. I have a question. Earlier, Mr. Kellen indicated that this association provides this school board with legal advice and policy. My question is, at any time during the last 2 years during COVID, did they advise this board that it was okay to continue to mask our kids? Was that any part of any of the policies or directives, legal advice that they gave you?
In my time here, I've not had any conversations with NHSBA regarding anything with respect to masks.
Very good. Thank you.
Kathy Slade.
Kathy Slade, 124 Willard Way, Plastow. I'd like to propose an amendment to this, which is just to add advisory only to the end of it.
I'm sure you've written that down, wrote your name.
Yep.
Do we have a second? Can you give me your name and address for the clerk? Whoever seconded it, can you give your name and address for the clerk? Did you hear? The clerk couldn't hear you. Can you either approach the mic or speak louder? Sorry, I couldn't tell you. Thank you. Did you get that? Thank you. So the motion made and seconded is to add advisory only at the end of Article 13. Anyone else wish to speak on the motion to add advisory only at the end? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Farrow.
I'm in support of the motion. Like others, I don't like to essentially gut citizens' petitions. But in this case, the New Hampshire School Board Association, as the superintendent said, is the association that provides us with all the policies that basically allow the school board to govern as the governing body. And there are literally hundreds of policies that this board has to work its way through. And they provide it for really a pittance. Every year there are major changes to policy that we're made aware of through the New Hampshire School Board Association. They have lawyers on their staff that we use, that any board member is allowed to just call up just to run things by. I know I've used them myself. In essence, they're not going to weigh in on something as hot button as, say, a mask. They always refer you down to your own school board attorney. But it's important for school board members to have access to something like this. For those at the town level, you have the same sort of organization in the New Hampshire Municipal Associations. They provide training to school boards. For instance, when the default budget rules changed, we had 2 attorneys come down here for several hours explaining us how these rules are changing and what we needed to do. So, and I know they offer many webinars and training. I can't, I understand that there's some concern about lobbying, but as Barbara said, when they go to this meeting, they get the pulse of member school boards throughout the state in order to make a determination as to which way they're going to go. They're not going at it without the membership input. So I'm sorry, I'm in support of this motion. I'd also be in support of studying it, but it sounds like that is not a valid motion to make on this, unfortunately, because I would be happy to study it.
Anyone else to speak on the motion to add advisory only at the end of Article 13? I'm going to ask for cards again. I bet it's going to be, Barbara?
Just as a counterpoint to Dr. Farah, I am going to be against the amendment, but it's on us to educate. This is a learning opportunity to educate what a great organization the School Board Association is, and the other organization as well. It is a highly valued organization, but it's up to us to let the voters know that. Again, I can't take the teeth out of a citizen's petition.
Thank you. So if the motion is to add advisory only at the end of Article 13. I'm going to ask my moderators and assistant moderators to help us with a count. If you're in favor of the motion to add advisory only, please raise your cards and keep them raised. If you are opposed to the motion to add advisory only, please raise your cards and keep them raised.
We're not meeting. No, there's nothing to meet. No, you're not allowed to. Unless the law changes.
Results of the count is in. Those in favor, 103. Those opposed, 60. So the motion to add advisory only to Article 13 passes. Any more discussion on Article 13 as amended by adding advisory only? Seeing no more discussion, then Article 13 as amended will appear on the ballot as written, and that concludes the articles that we're going to address tonight. I thank you all for your participation. I thank for all those who helped and helped set it up, and we'll see you on March 8th at your applicable towns. What? Yes.
The school board will not be meeting after this meeting. Budget committee, do you need to meet? There will be no meetings. There are no special meetings. We're done.
Thank you.
Because you're not allowed to.
Can you get me?
We didn't change it.
Everybody, first of all, we greatly appreciate you coming out, and Thank you for coming out. Please be careful in the parking lot and driving home. It may have gotten slippery since we've started the meeting, so please be careful. And again, thank you.
Sheila, you're not allowed to revote these unless they